Hello, crafty friends, and welcome to Late Night Card Making with me. It's 11:36 p.m. here in Washington, and well, let's get crafting. Thank you for being here. If it's late night for you guys, thank you so very much. Saturday nights are usually late night crafting for me, and I love to share my card making experience with you guys. It's quiet, there's no noise, babies are sleeping, everything is really silent, so this is the perfect time to go live. Now for today's live card making session, we'll be using the Gala stamp set, and this is actually the Craft Your Life project kit by Altenew. I have let me just turn on the lights here quick so it'll be a little more brighter. Yep, that looks good. Okay, so this is the Craft Your Life Kit project. This is a monthly subscription. You can like put it on auto renewal, or you could even buy the set on its own without any subscription. Now this one, the reason I love these Craft Your Life project kits is because you have this big stamp set. It's big that it's really difficult to even fit into my screen here. So it's really big, and I absolutely love the florals on these. There are some fun sentiments, and usually most of these sets come with coordinating products. We have stencils, which not only help you color in or ink blend in into all of these beautiful images, but also create a scene. There are mm, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 stencils here, including 2 masks, which I'll be showing you guys here in a minute. We have a beautiful embossing folder. This is a 3D embossing folder, and if you've watched my videos, you know how much I love my 3D embossing folders. I love texture dimension on all of my projects. We also have a coordinating die set. Now, the die set will cut the flowers, the 2 big flowers you see here on the stamp set. It'll cut these 2, and it'll cut the big words hello, hugs, and love. I love that this is vertical and not your usual horizontal sentiments. Hi. All right. So now this actually is from the March release, and another coordinating product. This is not part of the Craft Your Life kit. This is the Nesting Arches die. These have, I think, 14 dies we have in this set, and they coordinate perfectly with the stencil, the arch on the stencil, which I'll show you in a minute, which is what we will be using today. We are not using the dies, but I just want to give a quick mention here that there are 14 dies, beautiful domes. And now why I showed you that is because we have some sentiments which are curved here. We have sending strength and positive vibes, and then we have one which says thinking of you today, my friend. So I feel these sentiments would go perfectly with these arches here, and it would also pair well with the dome or the arch here on the stencil. This is exactly what we are going to be using today. Now for our card today, we will be using the stamp set and the stencil. Just one of the stencil. We will not be coloring or ink blending into these flowers. I will keep it black, just a stamped image, but we will be focusing more on the ink blending using the arch. Now, I'll keep the stamp set aside, and we can first take a look at the stencils. I'll keep these aside for now. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. We have 5 stencils which will help you color in the flowers, both the flowers, or ink blend into both the flowers that are on this stamp set. And we do have coordinating dies which will cut it out, but we are not using the dies today. We are just going to be stamping these images. So we will keep these stencils aside. I love that you can have you can use these stencils as is without any stamping as well. Maybe in my next video I can show you that. But then the thing I love about the Altenew stencils is that they're very easy to line up. They will give you the outline as well as some of the details wherein you can blend in darker colors and create beautiful shadows and depth. And they are also intricate enough to have your leaves and the flower centers ink blended as well. So we have 5 stencils for that. And we have the arches stencils. Now this one is just a plain arch, which is what we will be using today. We will be just creating this arch onto our panel. And this is a 4 by 5 1/4 panel, which is slightly smaller than my standard A2 size card base. I'll be using this. You also have a mask wherein you can place the mask in this gap, remove the main frame, and add ink blending around it to create more of a halo effect. Then we have something which will create your scene. Now this one has, it's more like a hilly scene with a sunrise, so you can use different shades of like a sunset or a sunrise scene. It can be either hills or even water feature. Now you can see that these lines are very thin and delicate, but we do have masks. Now each of these can be pulled out. It is stuck on this acetate sheet. So you can pull it out, place it here and cover this area so that the ink you blend here and here does not go into the other places. You can use an ombre of color or maybe even a rainbow of color. It will look absolutely stunning on this set. All right. So for our project today, we will be stamping one of those big flowers, and I'll keep all of these aside because this is not what we are using today. We are using just this main arch right here. And we will be ink blending on this, creating a beautiful array of colors. Let's see, probably pink, orange, and yellows. So I have these 3 colors in mind. Let's see how that works out. So for pinks, I have the Bubblegum Dreams. For the oranges, I have Tropical Tango. And for my yellows, I have Citrus Punch. These are absolutely beautiful colors. And let's get into some beautiful ink blending. Now my idea for my card is to have one of the flower or one of these floral arrangements stamped, and then we can ink blend over it. So ideally you could ink blend on the panel first and then stamp your image, but we are going to do some kind of an embossed resist technique wherein I will be stamping my floral image using my pigment ink and then adding some embossing powder over it. We'll be heat setting the embossing powder and then we'll be ink blending right over it. So we will do our stamping and embossing first before doing the ink blending. Yes, these colors definitely look like an ice cream flavor, especially the pink one. Okay. So I have my stamp block here, the stamp wheel, and I will place my panel right in the center. Now I have these tape here. This was, I think, in my last live, or I'm not sure which video that was, but I have it placed here so that it's buttered across the edge. And this is very helpful when I am stamping in multiple times or having mass producing my cards. Or if I have a bigger image like this, which might not fit in the edge. So this is actually the very first time I'm using this stamp set, so I'm really excited. I have never tried this before. I just opened the packaging right before our live today. So I'm really excited to see what we end up with. I will bring my mask and place it right here because I also want to stamp a sentiment. So I'll just have everything in place and then we can take the mask out. So I want my image to be inside the blended part, ink blended part, as well as slightly hanging off the edge so that it creates a beautiful variation right here. Something like this. And for the sentiment, let's see if we want a curved sentiment or I think I'll go with something simple for this one. Let's stamp sending you a smile, which is a very simple sentiment because I've got already such a big image here. So we'll keep the sentiment pretty simple. Let's see if that fits actually. If not, then we may have to, okay, we can stamp it right here. I'll just stand and make sure it's perfectly aligned. So just like the stamp set is hanging over the edge, we will make sure that the sentiment is also overlapping the plain cardstock as well as the blended portion. I can pick this up using my stamp wheel plate. That looks pretty straight to me, doesn't it? Now, since this is a new stamp, it will be quite sticky. It'll have that fresh stamp static, so I just like to rub my finger. Or you could just dab in some of your anti-static powder, very light. It will remove that stickiness and it'll make it easy for you to stamp. All right. Now, since I'll be heat embossing, I will use my anti-static powder on my background. And I will bring in my pigmenting. This is the Versafine Onyx Black ink. In the end, if I feel I'm not happy with the sentiment, I can definitely place a die cut sentiment over it and cover it up. So I'll make sure everything is nice and clean. I will remove my sentiment because I know that's quite dark enough there. I'll remove it, but I'll leave the floral arrangement as is and stamp it a couple of times to get a good impression. That looks pretty good. I will carefully peel out the channel from my stamp block. I will leave this as is and clean up later. Or if I decide to mass produce this card in a bunch of different colors, I might use it later. Now for my favorite part, which is adding the embossing powder. I'm using a clear embossing powder. This ink is pretty wet, so it'll hold all that embossing powder over it. I'll just tap it to make sure I don't have any excess. And I will funnel back all of the remaining embossing powder back into the container. Now, just before I start my heat gun, I just want to make sure like the heat gun will make some noise. So this is not something that you will see in my usual card making videos where it's completely edited and there's no background sound, but here you will. So that's my heat gun right there. And that's the sound. I'll make sure it's nice and hot before I get it to my paper. I'll keep moving the heat gun so that the paper does not warp. If you focus your heat gun just to one place, there are chances that the paper might warp. Well, heating an image like this does take some time. In my edited video, it's barely 5 seconds, but yeah, this is how it looks. The image is beautiful and shiny. Now let's have this panel onto our sticky mat, which is where we will be doing our next stage, which is the ink blending. Yes, I have a slight smudge here that we will fix at the end with maybe some sequins or some splatters, we'll see. Now, before I press onto this panel or before we start ink blending, I will give it a few seconds to cool down. I don't want to smudge this hot melted embossing powder. So we will give it a couple of seconds. You could also just shake the panel around just to cool it down so that the melted panel is completely set and we don't risk any kind of smudging. I'll make sure the panel is nice and secure on my sticky mat, and then now we can bring in our arched dome. I will try to align it as straight as possible, but a little imperfection, I guess, is fine. We can stick the edge to the sticky mat, and this will make sure that this doesn't move. So you see half of the image goes out of our ink blended area, which is exactly what we wanted. Just make sure everything is secured nicely when you do this process. Now moving on to the ink blending. For this panel, I decided to go with pink and orange, or let me see, pink and yellow. Which one should I go with? Let's do pink and orange. So we will kind of create a blend of colors. So I'll start with orange in the bottom and pink on the top. I'll start with Mandarin Burst and Tangerine Dream. We will go with the bottom first and then we'll go on top. I will start with Mandarin Burst. Now since this is a larger area, I have my larger ink blending brush. I'll just take some of that on my blending brush here and very light-handedly blend the ink. Even though it's all stuck here, I'll still make sure that I'm holding everything in place just in case anything moves or shifts. And that's halfway for that. Now I'll take the darker shade of orange, which is Tangerine Dream, and add this darker shade only on the bottom edge. So it's more like creating an ombre effect here. You see, it's getting darker at the edges. I will not take this darker shade to the center. Now, just like we did the orange, we will do the same with our pinks as well. For my pinks, I'll do fuchsia and magenta. I will first wipe off my stencil because I don't want to contaminate my blending brushes here. And I'll start with the lighter shade. Again, using my big blending brush. I'll just blend in that beautiful pink. And when we reach this part, there'll be a good blend there. Now for this blend, we can go back and forth with the orange and pink to get that seamless look. Next, I will bring in magenta, which was the darker pink. And again, just like we did with the oranges, we'll have the darker pink only on the edge. whatever leftover ink I have on my brush, I will bring it to the center and try blending the orange with the pink. I will go back to my orange brush, and again, whatever ink is left on my brush, I will just blend it right here. And that's it. Now, before I take off the stencil, I want to add some shine to this panel. For that, what I'm going to do, I'll leave the stencil where it is, and I will take my shimmer spray and very lightly add a mist of the spray onto the ink blended part. It may not be as beautifully visible here on camera, but in person, I love the shine. We can now carefully remove the stencil. Make sure you don't hold here because the spray is still wet, and I love this part where I get to reveal my stencil, and isn't that absolutely gorgeous? I will keep this aside to dry while I clean up my stencil, and well, I am in mood to create another one, so well, why not? So the way I clean my stencil is specifically for situations like this where I know I'm going to use it again. I'll just put it on a microfiber cloth and spray it with some water, and then bring another microfiber cloth and wipe off any of that ink or the spray that we had. Okay. For our next card, again, we are going to do the same exact thing. We will have our arch stencil, but instead of a stamped image, this time I will be using these delicate branches that are here. So this die cuts out the branches and I cut them. I have it pre-cut here using navy blue cardstock. I have little tiny branches here, and for this one we might use one of those curved sentiments on the stamp set. So that was my first panel. I'll just gently peel it out of my sticky mat and set it aside while it dries, and then until then we can work with our second card. All right. Try to line that up as straight as possible. Again, but this time I'll be using just the yellows, or maybe a little bit of orange as well, but mostly focusing on the yellows because I love the combination of blue and yellow. So I have my citrus punch, and we will be using these three shades. I'll leave the lighter shade for now. I will start with the mild yellow. Again, I'm creating an ombre effect, bringing down the color. So we have light, medium, and dark. We have the lightest yellow right there. Moving on to Lemonade Stand, which is the medium shade. It may not be super visible here on camera, but then if you look closely, I'll share pictures of these cards later on. You'll see how the color gradient works. This is definitely a lot darker as compared to the top portion. And my last color is going to be raw amber, which is almost like sand shade. Almost going into the brown, yellowish brown family. I will have that here. So you will see that gradient coming together. Now at this point, I will add the slightest bit of orange just to give it more of a sunset-like feel. This is Mandarin Burst, which was the medium shade orange or the lighter orange that we added. And this I will apply just to the bottom, just to intensify that color. That's it. Okay. Let me make sure I have the proper blend of color before I peel off my stencil. And once I'm happy with the placement of the inks, I can move the ink pads aside. And for this one, again, we can add some of the beautiful shimmer mist, which we added for card number 1 before removing our stencil. It's either the shimmer mist or black splatters. But since we already have this navy blue cutouts, I will skip the splatters for this one and keep this card really simple. And now we can carefully take off our mask. And while this dries, I will clean my stencil. This is the easiest way to clean your stencil unless you're using some paste or any kind of those glitter mediums. You will need to wash it under warm water. But then if you're using just plain inks, this is the best way to clean it. All right. So I'll make sure my shimmer is nice and dry before I add my sentiment or even adhere the die cuts. So this is card number 1 which we created. This has dried up beautifully. While this dries, let's put this on a card base. Oh, so I have my top folding card base here, and this was 4 by 5 1/4 inch. So you will have that border around the edge. I will go ahead and add some foam tape to pop it up because we don't have any other thing that's popping on this. So it's fairly a flat card. This could also be like a one layer card or a one dimensional card where you could do all of this directly onto your card base. But you know me and I love my dimension, so we will add some fun dimension here. So I will make sure that my panel is straight and I will adhere this directly onto my cut piece. There you have it. That is card number 1. I love how beautiful that color looks, and we can definitely add some sequins and probably add something here to cover that up. But I love how simple this is. Even without sequences, this would look absolutely stunning. Okay, now panel number 2 is dried up. Let's add our sentiment and finish this off. All right. So I will bring back my stamp wheel and place this right here in the corner. For my sentiment, I will use one of those curved sentiments this time. Let's see. I've never worked with curved sentiments, so this is definitely going to be something fun. I'll try and stamp thinking of you today, my friend. I'll make sure it is properly aligned to the curve. All right. Now again, I'll just rub my fingers, and before I stamp it directly onto the panel, what I'm going to do is bring in my grid transparency sheet, and this is more like testing this thing out. If I like the positioning of the sentiment, I will stamp right over the grid transparency sheet, and I think that looks good. So before I can commit it directly onto the card front, this is what I like doing. I will take out my grid transparency sheet, set it aside, and now I will bring back my ink and stamp the sentiment onto the cut piece. Again, not a lot of pressure, especially with delicate sentiments like these. Just one tap should be good. That looks good. and peel off my paper, and that's pretty much it. Now all we have to do is arrange these branches over here. Again, partly on the outside and part of it on the inside. You can either create a bunch or just spread it out onto this image, onto the ink blended area, sorry. Something like this. Let's create our little cluster. You could use spray adhesives for this, but I definitely prefer using my liquid glue and just tiny dabs of glue on the edge. This is the Barely Arts glue, which is my absolute favorite because it's really fine tip and not a whole lot of glue comes out of it. So you know that the glue is not oozing out and creating a mess. So I'll just add the tiniest dabs of glue on this die cut piece. And I want it to go off the edge. Can bring in our second cluster. I'd like to place it really close to each other just so that it feels like a continuous set rather than looking like separate images or separate die cut pieces. I love the navy blue and the yellow orange color. It's times like these when it gets awfully quiet when I'm either ink blending or adhering little die cut pieces like this, when I need like a lot of attention and make sure things are all in place. It's past midnight and it's absolutely quiet around here right now. I will just extend this branch upward, something like this. So that we get some flow on our card front. And the small one, I think I'll tuck it somewhere here. Yep, tuck it in this open portion right here. And that's pretty much it. We have created our little floral cluster. You could definitely die cut it again and create more branches, but I feel this looks beautiful as is. And with that, panel number 2 is also ready. Again, we will just add some foam tape and mount it onto our card base. Mm. For this one, I have a side folding cut base. I will hold this down with some washi tape here so that the panel does not open up while I'm trying to align this. And there you have it. So we did 2 cards start to finish in about 45 minutes, which is something really good. And I love how both these cards turned out very simple to create. I would personally leave it as is, but if you'd like, you could also add some sequin mix, some sparkle or black splatters would also look good, especially on this one. But I love the clean and simple design on both these cards, and I would definitely like you guys to give it a try and tag me on my Instagram if you try this design and let me know what you think about it. Now, I will definitely leave all the supplies and links to the product, the card kit subscription in the description box below. Please know that all of those links are affiliate links, which means that if you shop using one of my links, I'll get a small commission at no cost to you guys. So I hope you enjoyed watching today's live session. Thank you so very much for being here. Good night and stay safe.